Well, the cost of living is high in South Africa, and with hikes in petrol, electricity and food, it seems to get even higher every year. When you consider the COVID-19 social relief grants amounting to just 350 Rand, just how much relief does it actually provide? Let's discuss this under the lens of the current food basket. How much does it cost? What do people need to survive? Dr. Julie Smith, a researcher at the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group, joins us now live. Julie, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it. This 350 Rand, what could people actually buy with it in South Africa?
Not a hell of a lot. If you go into a supermarket and you scout around for prices, you could probably pick up a 10 kg bag of maize meal, a 10 kg bag of rice, and a 10 kg bag of flour. That comes to 315 Rand. You probably wouldn't be able to go higher than that because, you know, there's a transport cost incurred in terms of getting your grant and then getting to the supermarket and getting back home. So we're looking at around 310 that you might be able to spend directly on food. So that would make a small contribution to a household.
Yeah. And of course, in comparison, just for context, what does an average South African spend to buy food per month?
So the average cost of the household food basket in April is 4,200 Rand.
Wow. And
month on month, the food basket has spiked. We've never seen such enormous spikes before in food prices. The month on month between March and April increased by 160 Rand or 3.9%. The cost of the basket over the last 8 months increased by 340 Rand or 8.9%. And it's important to recognize that these prices, the data from April doesn't include the increases in the fuel price or the upcoming electricity hikes. So our prediction is that the cost of the household food basket will be way more than 10% this year.
Yeah. And I know your organization was saying that, you know, there's no way this grant can turn into a potential livelihood for people to actually survive on it. And that's why reliance should not be something that people look to.
Yes, it's true. So it's very little, but it definitely does assist. You know, right now, just trying to absorb some of the hikes that we're seeing in the food prices, the 350 does go some way. I mean, you see that the basket went up by 160 Rand. Doesn't go a hell of a far, but it definitely does help. And it also gives people who do receive it some sense of autonomy. Unfortunately, it's not administered properly. So, you know, it's unreliable. People don't know when it's going to come in, so they can't really use it as well as they could. But it's absolutely essential that we have it now to stave off what will be a real explosion in hunger. And, you know, when people are pushed into a corner because all of these price increases are happening all on top of each other, then once they've explored all legal options to make sure that there's food in their kids' bellies, you know, a parent can deal with hunger, but they can't deal with their children that are hungry. You know, they're going to do whatever they can to make sure that their kids are okay. So that's why it's absolutely critical that the 350 grant is extended, and it really does need to be increased because of the escalation in prices.
You know, government is already saying, because I spoke to the minister, that they don't have the money to do this. They're looking at other ways of trying to help people get jobs, etc. But the reality of that happening anytime soon is near impossible. So just talk to me about what else people can do to get through their monthly food basket, to get the basics with this 350. Is there any cheaper alternatives for people to use?
No, because we've already explored all possible options. You know, as a household, you've cut back and you've cut back and you've cut back over the last 3, 4, 5 years, you know. We're actually in a worse position now than we were in March going into COVID because people have used up all their savings options. So now really it's about, I mean, what women tell us they do is they scout around for the cheapest prices. So the quality of food that they're eating is very, very poor. And, of course, the volumes have been cut down and the quality of the nutrition has been cut down. So once you get to that point, there's not a lot more that you can do. And when hunger starts coming in, because as a neighbor, you're going to support a neighbor that's hungry. But when both of you start getting hungry, and then the third family gets hungry, and then the fourth family gets hungry, it starts a horrible ball rolling that you can't stop. And then what you do is you get pushed into illegality. And there's nothing more dangerous for the state than to push people into criminality. Because as a mother, if my children are hungry, I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that they're fed. And so that's when you steal, that's when you throw rocks through a shop window, that's when things start to burn. And unless government intervenes now, they're going to lose all sorts of their, the ability to control the situation is going to diminish very, very fast. So now's the time to intervene, and not only intervene around the 350 grant, but also to look at the increase on the pension and the child support grant. Both of them were much lower than inflation. And basically, and also for workers, workers only got a 4.5% increase on their wage. And if you look at electricity, it's going to go up by 15.63%. Transport fares will probably go up between 7, 12.5%, and 25%. And our predictions on food are 10%. So families are getting poorer. They're poorer this year than they were last year. Workers are poorer this year than they were last year. Pensioners were poorer than they were this year, last year. And mothers are poorer as well. So the situation is very, very dire, and it's in flux now. And because it's in flux, it means that government has to act very quickly, because the window to intervene is very fast closing.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. That was Dr. Julie Smith, a researcher at the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group.